What's going on, YouTube? Wandering Nomad here in a very special place, home. I am home for now with a very special person here with my wife. Just kind of wanted to talk about relationships when you're an over-the-road driver. From my perspective, I'm definitely giving her a chance to speak. She's a professional. She's a licensed professional in another field. She can't always come out with me due to work constraints and, all that kind of stuff. But the biggest thing, communication. And I'm sure she's going to talk about her side of that, but you always want to make sure that you're focusing on your life at home. That's why you're out here. That's why you're out on the road. That's why you're doing what you do. Because you want to provide a better life for your family. It doesn't matter whether you're a company driver, an owner-operator, a lease purchase driver. You're
driver with your own authority.
Yeah, own authority. It doesn't matter. You're out here to make money. You're out here to provide for your family. And on their end, they're trying to hold it together for you when you come home. I'm going to let her say whatever she wants to say, and I guess I'll just kind of feed off of there, because for me it's communication. That's what I have. Communication. That's what I know.
When he first decided that he was going to go trucking, it was kind of like, kind of scary and nerve-wracking, because I knew he was going to be gone for long periods of time, and I kind of got it in my mind that it was almost as if he was going into the military. And we actually talked about that. We actually had that conversation, that it was almost like you were going into the military. And I know it's different than the military, because, when somebody goes into the military, they might get deployed, and you can actually see your spouse if you're on base with them and that kind of stuff. But for me, it was as though he was going to be deployed, and the good thing was that I can actually know where he is. I can actually talk to him every day. I can actually know how he's doing. Whereas if somebody's in the military deployed, you might not be able to, if they're high clearance or if they're out in the field, you don't know anything. And so there's a lot of apps that have really helped us be able to have a successful relationship while you're on the road.
Yeah. One of those, the big one, and no, this is not a sponsored video. It's
It's what we use.
It's what we use. There's an app out there. It's called Life 360. Yes, it's a tracking app. If you trust your partner, your spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, then you have nothing to worry about. You basically just download an app. You create what's called a circle. You can see where they are at all times, which is especially important because, especially, you guys know I drive a reefer, so my shift is all hours, day or night. When she wants to try to get a hold of me, she kind of, wants to make sure I'm safe. I might have had a 2 a.m. delivery. She's asleep. She doesn't know whether I'm still going to be alive when she wakes up. So what Life 360 does is it basically will pinpoint my phone, and she can go, oh, well, it says, he's at the Pilot in Little Rock. I don't know why you'd go there, but we'll just go there. But whereas she can start to get worried if, say it says that I'm, on I-40. But I've been stopped there for 3 hours on I-40. At that point, she can go, oh, well, now it's whether he's broke down. If I'm broke down, obviously I'm awake. She can send me a text and be like, yeah, I'm broke down. Or if there's no response, then there's something wrong. And that's where the communication comes into play. Obviously there's not truck stops everywhere, and if you need to park on a ramp at night, it's completely understandable. Trucking is a 24-hour job. Just communicate. Let them know. Say, hey, I'm on the side of the ramp. Don't get worried. Just, love you. Good night. Whatever. I'll be up about this time. And it helps them have peace of mind as well.
It helps build that trust. And there's actually been times when I've used 360 to help him. I've gone on to apps to try and, if he's driving, it's kind of hard to look at Atlas. So sometimes I've helped him when he's stuck in traffic. And, if he doesn't have a CB, which everybody should have a CB. Every driver should have a CB. Yep. That I wholeheartedly believe that, because there are so many things that you can avoid with a CB, and I've seen it, witnessed it firsthand when I've been on the truck with him. And but if for some reason you don't have a CB, like right now he's just gotten into a new company truck, and so he doesn't have a CB yet. So we're definitely gonna get him one. But
yeah, that was left in my last truck that is in Louisiana that broke down. When I purchased that truck, I only took what I could, and well, unfortunately that wasn't something I could fit into what little I could do.
Yeah. It's allowed me to help him. Maybe he's tired and needing to get off and find a truck stop, so I can actually go on and look at a truck stop for him. There's been a lot of times when I've been able to actually help him because of 360. So it's a tool for many reasons. And I've been fortunate enough that I haven't been working at every time that he's needed me. So
yeah, and it goes the same the other way. I trust her wholeheartedly. I don't, I'm not trying to check up on her and have to know where she is at all times. But, if I try to call her, she doesn't answer, whatever, I could pop open the app and I could say, oh, well, she's at work. Of course she can't answer her phone,
Right.
And then, I'm not trying to send a text behind that or whatever, because I don't want to disrupt her with what she's doing at work.
Trust when somebody's away like this in trucking or the military or whatever it is. Trust is huge. Trust and communication go hand in hand. If you have historical issues, like we both actually had historical issues in our past relationships, and it really took a lot of conversations to get to the point where we weren't facing that distrust all the time, but we had the fortune of being able to do that while he was still home and a little bit while he was on the road. But really, we worked through that and early in our relationship. So occasionally it's come up, but really it doesn't, because we communicate and acknowledge each other's whatever's going on with each other. So that's kind of the biggest thing, is communicating and trust. I mean, you have to have trust.
Absolutely. That's,
if you don't have trust, then that's a whole different issue, and maybe you shouldn't be in the relationship to begin with.
Or if you don't have trust, maybe you shouldn't drive truck. Maybe you shouldn't be over the road. It's one thing if you're local, whatever, but it doesn't matter what you do. If you don't trust your spouse,
there's a problem.
There's a problem, because you could be working a regular 9-to-5 job, and at 11:30 she's out with somebody else. That's, unfortunately, that's what happened in my past relationship. But yeah, trust is huge. Go ahead.
And I think, one thing is, I'm a big person on communication, obviously. But one of the things is that if I'm feeling anxious about something that's going on, I can actually tell him that. And he'll respect that. If you aren't with somebody that will respect that conversation, then that's where trust is you're gonna have more of a hard time with trust, is if you're not respecting each other's feelings. It's gonna, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to have this sound like a lecture.
No.
But I trust. So we'll move on from that. So I wrote some notes, so I'm looking at my notes. Sorry.
Well, and the other thing is, you have to make, when you're home, she's talked a lot about on the truck, but when you're home, try to make a spouse a priority. I mean, even if you have some things planned with some friends or, whatever, try to make your spouse a priority. Like, just this time, when she came and picked me up at the terminal, the first thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to take, she loves elephants. The first thing I wanted to do was to take her to the elephant museum, on the way home, and so that she could enjoy that.
It's like a dollhouse for elephants.
Well, yeah.
It was cute though. But if you're married, you married that person for a reason. Yeah. You married them because you felt like they were important in your life, important enough to actually take a vow with them. Whatever led to the decision to get married, or, even if you got married for the child or whatever, there's still a reason that you got married, and if you made the decision. So, even if you have friends that you want to spend time with, you made that person a priority. So why aren't you continuing to make it a priority? I can't tell you how many times I've heard women, and I was in a trucking wives and girlfriends group, and I can't tell you how many women were like, my husband doesn't want to spend any time with me, my boyfriend doesn't want to spend any time with me when he comes home, even though they live together. They don't want to spend time. They're just playing on the video game. They're out with their friends. They don't want to do anything. They just don't want to be home. And it's kind of like, marriage is like, or any relationship is kind of like a child. If you don't nurture that child's going to go kind of berserk. A child's not going to do very well. They're going to do their own thing if you're not nurturing them and caring for them and giving them comfort and boundaries and food, and if you're not actually taking care of your relationship, it's going to dissolve.
Yeah.
And so dates are huge. I was reading a post the other day where a guy was talking about how he hates going home because it's so messy and dirty. When he comes home, it's just overwhelming for him. And, work together as a team to get it done, and then find out what's making it an issue for them, because they're trying to hold everything down while you're gone. And quite frankly, that can be very overwhelming and depressing.
Especially if there's kids.
Yeah. I mean, if there's something, sometimes it can be really depressing being alone. You're married yet solo. That's how I call it. You're married yet solo. So, I nurture your relationship.
Well, one thing that I can say, and this is from personal experience, well, I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. I love karaoke. I love music. I love going out and doing karaoke. And probably my first year and a half out there on the road, when I came home, that's what I wanted to do, because that's, prior to trucking, I was actually a karaoke DJ. So that's kind of the other big part of my life is music, outside of, obviously, my wife and trucking. So when I would come home, that's what I would want to do. And it took me a while. I was stubborn. I was set in my ways. But it took me a while. But then I realized that you can have it both ways. So when it actually mainly it came to me when I was living in Kentucky. When we were living in Kentucky, we
which is like a year and a half, almost 2 years of him being on the road.
Yeah. I started realizing at that point when I think there was one or two karaoke places in the entire area, like within half an hour drive. I started making her more of a priority, and I'd come home and I'd take her out to dinner, or I apologize. Thank you very much, by the way, to the viewer that told me that I say too much. I do want to shout you out. I am going to work on that. It's just it's not something that I'm very
It's hard.
familiar with. Yeah, there it
Public
goes again.
speaking.
Yeah, public speaking is not my strong suit. But when we were in Kentucky, it became more about her and I. We didn't have friends there when we moved there. Granted, it was only temporary. We were only there a few months. And then we moved back to Pennsylvania. I think I made it clear that I live in Pennsylvania. And it kind of carried over, but at the same time, when we found a karaoke place here, we started going together. We started meeting new people together. So you got to find that balance in your life where you put your spouse first, but obviously you can still have friends. You want to take your wife out to a good lunch and then go fishing with Jimmy there this afternoon. So be it. Just make sure you put your spouse first.
And if you're not married but you live with your partner, then you moved in with them for a reason too.
Yeah.
If it's a girlfriend, boyfriend, and you don't live together, that's a different level of priority, Yet, I don't know how you're going to continue that relationship if you don't spend time with them. So, let's see.
She's an avid note taker, so she's she is good at that.
I know that driving is hard for you guys. I've been out on the road with him. I spent a few months out on the road with him. And, living in close quarters like that, it is living in close quarters. Let's keep it to the truth. It's very tight in that
I'm a big guy.
box.
I'm a big guy. It's hard to share a bed with me.
It is. One of those beds, yes. And so it's hard living in those confined spaces. And so you have to have boundaries, and you have to have time for yourselves in that truck too. So if you are living on the road together, then it's even important there to be able to, you're constantly doing things together, whether you want to or not. So having time away from each other is important. And for me, I was in the back a lot because I just wanted that space, and you were talking to your friends and stuff. So it gave him that opportunity to have time with his friends. It gave me my opportunity to kind of be by myself, but then we did things together. We went to dinner. We hung out. We watched movies. Game of Thrones was on at that time. So we were watching Game of Thrones, the new episodes and stuff like that. So, we still did things together.
And one of the other big things when you're going through an area, I had run out of hours on my clock. I had needed to take a 34-hour reset. My recaps were looking like crap. So we took our 34 in San Antonio.
That was fun.
It's somewhere she had never been before. Mm-hmm. So we just took an Uber into town and rode around town, had dinner at the top of the Tower of the Americas. It's always the little things that you can do for each other that make the biggest difference. I don't think we spent $100 that day between us, and that included souvenirs and everything.
Even with dinner?
Well, dinner itself was about $50, but everything else was relatively cheap. So, I mean, there's so much that you can do together if your spouse or significant other is on the road with you. Just make time to do it.
And I think one of the other big things, and again, communication, is if your needs aren't getting met, then let them know. You know, he was talking about karaoke all the time, and since we've been in Pennsylvania, that's kind of what we were doing. And I was like, I want to do something other than karaoke. I'm kind of tired of karaoke. So we actually went to a drive-in.
Absolutely.
And had fun with that. So you just have to communicate. That's the biggest thing. But I was saying, I know that it's hard for truck drivers to, I know that it's hard for you guys out there.
The only person I think that says more than I do.
See, now you got me doing it. I know it's hard dealing with the four-wheelers out there and dealing with the shippers and receivers and your dispatchers and all of it's stressful
other drivers.
Out there. It's stressful. I get that. And it's important for us as people that are not on the road to respect that as well and give you guys props for that and give you guys time to unwind when you guys get home. You know, when the drivers get home, one of the big things that you always ask for, that you've made it known that you want and need, is some downtime just to kind of veg and be home. And if that means laying in bed or playing video games or whatever, then having that time to be able to do it. But you also plan your home time well enough that you get time to do that.
And shameless shout out to Crete there. That is one thing that they are very good at doing. There it is. They actually send you messages, and I received one myself, or a couple of them. You've been out for this long. We're going to try to get you home within this many days. Reply back if you want to extend. You know, how many days you want to extend if you don't want to go home. So it's definitely something that they do well. They understand a work-life balance. And going off of what she said, you guys know, especially if you're drivers out there, you guys know that the last thing that you want to do when you get home is to get into your car and drive around everywhere. You've been driving for, 3, 4, 6, 8 weeks.
I've do that a couple of times.
You've been driving for weeks at a time. And some people, they don't like resets. They would rather run recaps. So you're driving every day for weeks at a time. The last thing you want to do when you get home is drive. So that's something that like me personally, my first day at home, I don't want to go anywhere. After that, we'll figure something out. We'll come to conclusions on what we want to do together. But that's kind of where,
Today's been our veg day.
It has. It really has. We just have been laying on the couch and, playing some games and stuff like that. But otherwise, it's just, been a relaxing day.
And if you have kids, how fun is it to just veg with the kids and, play with the kids, play with them. Yeah. That is actually a huge stress reliever. And I don't think people realize that if you're super stressed and you play, whether it's with the dog, the kids, if you want your friends and you want a veg day, have them come over and shoot darts or something. Yeah. I don't know.
Go out and play pool, something, yeah.
Have them come over.
Well,
there's your veg day.
Some people have pool tables at their house.
I know.
I want to keep the video from going too long here. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
The only other thing is, I'll give communication one more plug.
Communication deserves all the plugs.
Because even though we don't, there's days when you don't feel like talking, and there's days I don't feel like talking.
Absolutely.
And you just let me know that. And same here. I let him know that. And sometimes when he first started doing that, it was actually really hard for me. I got used to it.
She knows it's not about her. Sometimes I just feel like being solitary. It's what we do. We're solitary all the time. Sometimes we don't want that, especially if we're having a good day solitary.
Not depressed day solitary.
Yeah. If it's a good solitary day where, say, everything that came across the radio has been spot on, you've been jamming out, you've loved being by yourself because you can crank it up, no distractions, nobody calling in. I mean, something like that. Like,
he doesn't want to talk.
Sometimes I don't want to hear because I don't know what bad might have happened at the house. So, sometimes I just don't want that mood to be broken. So, make sure your spouse knows or your significant other knows that if you choose not to, at the very least, give them a call. Tell them you love them. Wish them a good night. Tomorrow's never promised,
And we've seen too many driver accidents recently. I mean, that Schneider driver that plummeted.
In Houston, yeah.
Oh, that was horrible. Horrible.
And
I view him as a hero for turning not into traffic. He didn't turn into traffic. He turned the other way.
There was another one the other day in Wisconsin did the same thing. On top of that, in the last year or so, I've seen so many stories of drivers who just didn't wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
And so tomorrow's never guaranteed. Make sure that at the very least you call them, you let them know you love them, let them know you're thinking of them, even if you don't want to talk. Just say, hey, I don't really feel like talking, I just wanted you to know I love you. Whatever. That could make their day too if they were having a bad day.
One thing that I don't know where you saw that advice. It was something about this couple that had been married for a super long time, like 40, 50 years or something. And one of the things they always did was say, I love you before they ended their conversation, before they went to bed, whatever. And so that's something that we've pretty much abided by.
Yeah.
I think there was one point in time when we didn't, and it felt really weird and awkward and uncomfortable.
It did.
And you knew there was something going on in our relationship, and it wasn't so much our relationship as it was us individually struggling with grief. Yet we got through that. And so communication, and if you're in a relationship, always end with I love you.
Yeah. I mean, even if you're arguing, you don't just fall out of love with somebody because they disagree with you. You still love them. So it's just something to remind them that no matter how far apart you guys are, you still love them. So, do you have anything else to add on that?
No.
Well, I want to end this off. I want to let you guys know, be safe. And if I'm the only one that tells you this today, call your significant other, call your wife, call your husband, call your boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance. Your kids. Let them know you love them. Let them know you're thinking of them. That's what we're out here for. I'm not out there to just lollygag and do whatever I feel like whenever I feel like. I'm out here for one reason. For her right there. I don't have kids, so...
Well, we have a fur baby.
Yeah, well... But I'm out there for her. That's why I'm out there.
And if your significant other is on the truck with you, if your spouse, wife, girlfriend, significant other, boyfriend is on the truck with you, give them a hug. Say I love you.
Always. On that note, I'm out of here. You guys be safe.
Bye.
And you guys have a good night. Thank you so much for coming on.